Right, so this is how you make Fukujinzuke, that Japanese pickle, what you get with Japanese curry. So basically, it's like not a fermented pickle. It's really easy. You just chop up a load of stuff and put it in a sort of soy sauce, sugary, mirin-y sauce, and bring it to the boil, and then put it in a jar, and that's it. So, what you need is some daikon, which is a big radish. This is like the main ingredient in it. This is lotus root. That's like the second other weird ingredient. But you could basically do any combination of these vegetables. The most important one is this. You want cucumber. The traditional thing that they'd use is sword beans, but these are just green beans. I think they'll be pretty similar. And aubergine. I'm not going to use all of this. I'll probably use half of it. That's 300, so that'll be 150 grams. So let's do that first. Let's do a choppy chop. Oh yeah, and then ginger. And I'm going to use all of this. This is like 40 grams. You can also put in beetroot to get that like red colour. And you can also put these in, which are perilla leaves, which give it a sort of minty flavour. And I'm just going to put some in because I've got them. But you could definitely leave them out. So the important thing to do is know your total weight of things, because that will come into play later with the amount of salt and sugar and soy sauce and mirin. But basically, first thing to do is to chop everything up and put it in a bowl. Right. So basically, you want to cut everything into quite even little squares, kind of, because that gives it sort of even pickling. It will take on flavours evenly. Okay, so my card filled up, so I'm not sure quite where we got to, but basically I've chopped all of the veg into little squares, and the aubergine went into water while I was doing that. Then I've weighed it against this, so these bowls weigh the same, I turned it. This amount of vegetables weighs 1,218 grams, and to this we need to add 2% of its weight in salt. 2% of its weight is, so it's 1218 times 0.02, which is about 25. So we need to weigh out 25 grams of salt. That'll do. 24.9. Cool. Then what you do is you put this on top of here. And basically what that does is it draws a lot of moisture. The salt draws a lot of moisture out of the cells from the of the vegetables, and lowers the overall water content. And then you discard that extra water, which gives them a nice sort of crisp pickliness, keeps them crisp basically. Probably what I'll do is leave this for like 15 minutes, maybe I'll leave it for like 10 minutes, then come back and give it another mix, and then leave it for another 10 minutes, and then hopefully there'll be a big sort of pool of water in the bottom. And yeah, and that'll be that. So see you in about 10 minutes. It's been 10 minutes, so let's have a look in here. Right, we've got, looks like there's some moisture coming out of them, but we could have more. Just give it another mix, get the salt really mixed around. So if I'd added a little bit of beetroot, it would probably be very red already. I just haven't done that because I don't have any beetroot, but I think the flavour will be pretty, it shouldn't affect the flavour much. Right, they can stay in there for another 10 minutes. In the meantime, the other ingredient is kombu, which can also be acquired through various means. Kombu is something that you would usually have for making like dashi, which is pretty key to a lot of Japanese cuisine. It's like a sort of fish and seaweed stock. So yeah, kombu is seaweed. It's just like a sort of kelpy type seaweed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that in a bit of water for the intermittent period, and let it rehydrate a bit, and then I'll chop it up and add it in a bit. So that can just go in there. Happy little kombu. Cool. And then the other thing that I'm going to add, which is definitely not essential, is a thing called shio koji, which is like, it's a sort of fermented rice thing. So I'll add that at the end, and it should add like a depth of flavour, but again, it's not really necessary. Next thing is to work out how much liquid you need, and I think what it is like 2/3 of the dry weight of your veg. So if the dry weight, if we had 1.2 kilos of veg, so 33% of that is 400 grams. 400 times 3 is 1,200. So for 1.2 kilos of veg, you want about 800 milliliters of liquid. You want equal mirin and soy sauce, and like I think, like again, like 33% of vinegar, and that means that I've got to do some maths. Yeah, so I want about 135 ml of vinegar and 340 ml each of these two. A bit for me. Mirin. 140-ish of vinegar. And then we also want 140 grams of sugar. I might use a bit more than that though. Apparently, like the ones that you get in the shop are apparently very sweet, and a sort of traditional one is less sweet. Quite like the idea of it being quite sweet. So maybe we will go with that's probably too small a bowl, but oh well. 180 grams of sugar. 181, cool. So you can see now our kombu is rehydrating and it's gone all floppy and weird. But that's good, that's what we want. Okay, so it's been about another 10 minutes. So we've got all our veg here that has hopefully released a lot of moisture. And what I would do is, if I was using normal soy sauce, not low sodium soy sauce or low salt soy sauce, I would fill this up with water, give it a little zhuzh around, and then a lot of the salt will dissolve into that water, and then I'd strain it off through this colander. But because I kind of want the salt that's on it already, I'm just going to strain it and let the moisture out. Just let that drain for a little bit. All of the veg goes into this sauce we made cold, and then you bring it up to the boil. As soon as it's the boil, you turn it off and then let it cool down. Oops, seaweed on the floor. Then we've got perilla leaf. You could probably use mint if you wanted to, but otherwise I'd probably just say leave it out. So I will finally sort of shred these up, but they can go in quite late. Oh, and they smell good. They smell like, I don't know, it's not really any close comparison, to be honest. Sort of like an almost peppery mint, but not peppermint. Wash the slime off me. And then the only other thing is I'm going to add like a couple of tablespoons of shio koji, which is sort of sweet and ricey. Shio koji is literally just, it's fermented rice and salt and water blended up, and it's really excellent as a meat marinade. It's basically, the koji produces lots of interesting enzymes, and the enzymes are good at breaking down all kinds of stuff like proteins and I think carbohydrates and other bits and bobs into compounds that have good flavors to them. So with meat, it breaks down a lot of proteins and creates sugars that aid a lot in browning and also sort of deepen the flavour of things. It's good shit. Okay, right, these are probably drained enough. Turn it on. Bring it up to a simmer. And turn it off, and that's it. That's all it takes. So it's simmering. So off it goes. Dry stuff. So I've chopped up the perilla leaves. Pull it down a bit. Chopped up the perilla leaves and the kombu. That's going in there. There it goes. I'll probably put the shio koji in later. Just because otherwise it'll denature the enzymes that I want to be acting on it. I have seen recipes that drain the liquid out of the, or drain the solids out of the liquid and then reduce the liquid down, which I guess would give it a sort of more sweet, syrupy nature to it. But I kind of, you also want the, if you're putting it in jars, you want the liquid to be like submerging the vegetables so they don't go mouldy. So maybe it's not good to do that. As at 68 degrees. So with koji, it grows at about 40 degrees C quite well, or somewhere between 30 and 40. So I guess the enzymes in it are most active about that temperature. So, and they'll probably denature if it goes above that. So I kind of want it to come down to 40 degrees before I add the koji, which is what I'm going to do. Yes, right, 41, that'll do. In goes this. A good stir about. Now, put it in jars. And that's that. Bam. And yeah. Enjoy.